Batya Ungar-Sargon, this lady, explains the Maga philosophy that the left can't understand. Well, it's about fucking time. I guess I do it. Let's see what it means. Second class, how the elites Trump considers himself an elite. Bannon considers himself an elite. How the elites betrayed America's working men and women. And there's I guess a truck full of grain right there with the sun going behind it. And you mean global corporations that move their shipping overseas and stuff and had their products made overseas, like, I don't know, MAGA hats and whatever the fuck products Ivanka makes? You mean like that? Yeesh. Let's see.
All right, welcome. I just wanted to say, welcome.
Okay, this has been played a bunch. All right, I've seen everybody play this stuff. This is Jack Posobiec, and he is, for the record, being sarcastic about this. I'm just saying, for the record. He's being, this whole, like, welcome to the end of democracy or whatever. He's talking about this in terms of that's how we're describing this gathering. Now, I stand by that description because I do think that's what they're after. But what he's doing is mocking that label. He's not actually saying it, directly. Saying the quiet part loud, I've heard it called. That's not what he's doing. He's trying to be cute about it, while at the same time, that's exactly what they're fucking.
To the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here. We'll replace it with this right here.
Amen.
CPAC, do you know what that is? That is the conservative, what is it?
Unfortunately.
What is PAC?
Political Action Committee.
Political Action
Conservative Pedophile Action Conference.
Committee. Okay, yeah. It's their big convention every year. It's like corporations have a big convention. They have their big convention. I made jokes about it every year. I can't remember the last time we didn't. It goes way back. I remember once calling it the Woodstock for the mentally impaired. And but in years past, it was like the most conservative commentators and senators and governors. And okay, this year there's a guy, I've heard this name. I don't know who.
Okay, I think he's making a point that this has devolved into, like, YouTubers, essentially.
He is Jack Posobiec. He's doing...
Posobiec. I don't care that he gets it wrong, but that's fine.
Sort of like a roundtable discussion. It's a convention. They have these things. This is a quote. Welcome to the end of democracy. We are here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we...
Yeah, see... This is the problem I had, is that they're reading it as if he wasn't being cute about it or being ironic about it. Posobiec was actually meaning it to be a joke when he said it, but a joke that hides the truth. And by thinking that he's not saying it as a joke, and like just looking at the quote directly without understanding that makes you seem dumb, or like you're incapable of getting the joke and therefore you're buying into what he's saying, right? The point is, and yeah, he definitely said it, but he said it he was being verbally ironic, is the point. The important thing is not that he said it and he was joking and that's that. The important point to be made is that he said it, he was joking, but then they got right about doing it. That's what you point out. You point out that was a joke. That wasn't a joke. He was dismissing the criticism in a joking way, and then they absolutely went on about it. Not, he said it openly, and they were like, we're proud to be insurrectionists. Fucking sick.
We'll endeavor to get rid of it. Am I missing an irony here? Am I missing...
Yes, you are.
A joke? Or is it seems now, they are saying the quiet part out loud?
Yeah.
That they are not. This is CPAC. This is Republican, conservative, their big convention. And you have a guy like this and the crowd is loving it. Welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it. January 6th was good. Now we're going to finish the job. Thoughts?
It's scary.
Thoughts on that?
I'm gonna get a fucking hit.
We're going medieval and do everything. Happens very rarely. Is be safe.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Stephen K. Bannon. Does anybody know what the K stands for? Is it Ku Klux or Klan? I always forget.
It's Tuesday, 5 March, in the year of our Lord 2024. It is not often on the Bill Maher show he gets put in his place. We have the extraordinary young woman here who did that, Batya Ungar-Sargon from Newsweek magazine and Brooklyn. I've done Bill Maher a lot. I know those guys quite well. That was really, it happens very rarely on his show, but you knew the details, and we'll talk about what happened else. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about going in the Lion's Den. It's what, 3,000
The Lion's Den. Grow the fuck up.
people at the old, it's the CBS studios over on Highland in L.A.
Yeah, it's terrible. The CBS studios on Highland in LA. It's shocking. It's scary to even set foot on the grounds, on the same place where they had meetings about Marcus Welby, MD, and the fucking farmers market is a block away. It's just, seriously, it's like a granola crime wave waiting to happen.
Talk to me about being on there.
Well, I'm very, very grateful to Bill for having me, because even though I am on the left, I can't get onto liberal shows because it's kind of like that scene in Monty Python where they're like, hey, we want to join you. And they were like, well, how much do you hate the Romans? And he goes, a lot. And they're like, right, you're in. It's the same thing with Trump. If you don't hate Trump, they will not let you on, even if you want to tell them, hey, here's how the Democrats could get the working class back. They don't want to hear it. And I just find it undeniable at this point that, thanks to you, Mr. Bannon, Donald Trump became the voice of the working class and the voice of saving the working class from the handshake agreement between both parties to sell them out and sell out their futures. If you have arrived at that conclusion, which I think is the...
Also, by the way, I have not, and I would like to see an argument for this rather than just the description of it as self-evident, which, again, there is not a handshake between both parties to stop unions, to defund education, any of that stuff. Like, it's goofy. Like, no. This uniparty horseshit, this both sides do it nonsense by, like, tacking the extremes and then saying that's what the rank and file do is just garbage.
The only true conclusion. You cannot get into liberal spaces. So I'm very grateful to Bill for having me, although the audience definitely didn't like me.
No, but I want to talk about it. You say you're a liberal or progressive, yet your books, this book is, and I know you're going to come out with a bigger media campaign later, but, Second Class is one of the definitive works out there. It's about to come out. How do you say you're liberal when I read it and I feel like I'm reading a Maga writer?
Because you are?
Well, to me, Donald Trump is kind of like a New Deal Democrat. And this is something I tried to explain to Bill Maher as well. To Democrats and liberals, Trump is...
Yeah, except for all the, like, stealing national security secrets and pussy grabbing and lying to banks and the IRS about the value of his buildings or even how tall they fucking are. And God knows what the fuck happened to his ex-wife and his failed casinos and his shit-talking the woman he sexually assaulted and stuff. Other than that, the dude's a fucking regular Roosevelt.
An extremist. But to Trump's supporters, he is a moderate, if not a liberal.
Say that again. This is...
What the fuck are you talking about?
Because in the war room, as we say, we always have President Trump's right flank, right? We always have the right flank. President Trump, what the media and he's a kind-hearted guy. He's a big-hearted guy. He was very popular.
Well, if you're a man who can give him money, apparently.
With all that crowd beforehand, he is.
No, he wasn't. He was a running gag.
If you look at the spectrum of our policy recommendations and beliefs, President Trump is kind of a moderate, right? That's why he's building a coalition.
No. When you suggest extreme ideas and you fail and you either get nothing passed or what you get passed is kind of a bipartisan version of it, which most of the time he got nothing at all. Or in one case, the Republicans just rammed through their fucking tax cut on a party line vote. That's not moderation. If life does not moderate you, to be a moderate, you have to choose the middle way. Not, well, I can't get out what I want, so I'll just fucking, just so I can't take all L's. That's not being a moderate.
You agree with that?
His view on abortion, 16 weeks, right? That was the...
Not yet. Hold on a second. Secondly, he's saying, like, they're back and forth about 15. He hasn't made up his mind yet, and he's not going to. You know why? Because A, he's a coward, and he's not a leader, and he's had at least 3 abortions. Ask Elliot Broidy.
Democrats' view until the 90s, his view on immigration, that mass migration is class warfare against the working class, that's
not what he says. He doesn't say class warfare against the working class. When the fuck did he become Bernie Sanders? Get the fuck out of here. He doesn't think that. He thinks they're sending rapists and like Hispanic people coming across the border are terrorists and they're from insane asylums. He's not talking about they're taking our jobs. The fuck are you talking about?
was the view of the Democrats until the 90s.
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders in 2015. Open borders, that's a Koch brothers proposal, right? You remember that? Trump is pro-black. He's courting black voters. He's
courting black voters by saying, look, I'm only being indicted because of you fuckers. By the way, you guys get busted for crime all the time. We got a lot in common. Yeah, it's a terrific outreach program.
pro-gay. I hear that from his supporters all the time, and they love that about him. That is who the Democrats used to be.
He's pro-gay. And you hear this all the time from his supporters. I'm just gonna straight up call bullshit on that one. I mean, we could dive into it further, but literally people in the war room around you that hang out with him all the time are gonna push back on that.
And now it is who MAGA is, and I say that with.
MAGA is not fucking pro-gay and supportive of fucking immigration, like of immigrants because they're going to take our jobs but we don't think they're violent monsters and rapists and from insane asylums. We just think it's economic warfare. No, he's saying they're terrorists and they're like, it's an invasion.
With a lot of love and respect.
So talk about that as a liberal, you've been out
alleged
outcast because you take the side of the working class.
Yeah.
So how can that be? The Democrats tell us all the time they're a part. AOC and these people tell us they're a working class party.
No.
Right. That would be why Joe Biden was the first president ever to stand on a union picket line, and Donald Trump hired scabs and went to a non-union shop to pretend he was on their side. I have to say, I doubt she's going to bring that up. I'm getting a little premonition, but I doubt that's going to come up.
That's complete nonsense. The Democrats are the party of the college-credentialed elites and the dependent poor. So all of their policies are either about flattering the vanity of the rich or sustaining the poor that won't work. And meanwhile...
Oh, the poor that won't work. That's something we always talk about as liberals. Hey, guys, as a liberal, when you're sitting around talking about the poor that won't work, that's how I refer to them. I think that's how most liberals talk about them, don't you? Hold on. Real quick, I just want to, I'm going to show something to this. Get this in here. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. One more thing. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, it's that whole elite-y thing that we do with the elite thing. The Biden-Harris administration announces $47 million in new funding to support school infrastructure investments, followed by U.S. Department of Education launches new initiative to support career-connected learning and increase job pathways for young Americans. Specifically, this is around vocational schools. Announced the launch of Raise the Bar, Unlocking Career Success, a new Biden-Harris administration initiative supported by the Departments of Commerce and Labor to increase and expand access to high-quality training programs to help young Americans pursue jobs in today's in-demand fields and prepare for careers of the future. The new effort unites key agencies of the Biden-Harris administration to strengthen the connection between K through 12 education, post-secondary education, and workforce programs, with the support of $120 billion dedicated to K through 12 education in the American Rescue Plan and the Perkins funding. The administration is ensuring the next generation is building the skills necessary to fill high-paying jobs like those created by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, CHIPS, and Science Act. This includes expanding access to skills-based learning and training pathways. That's vocational schools, like registered apprenticeships in key industries such as advanced manufacturing, automotive, cybersecurity. This continues. Here you go. Biden administration urges schools to expand apprenticeships and career learning. Fact sheet. Biden administration to take steps to bolster registered apprenticeships. Today, President Biden and Vice President Harris will meet with a group of labor leaders to discuss the American Rescue Plan and to get input into the president's infrastructure plan. They will discuss, which both passed and had all this shit in. They will discuss how to put millions of Americans to work in good-paying union jobs, building roads, bridges, transit, electric vehicle charging stations, broadband schools, and child care centers, water infrastructure, and more. Major infrastructure investments will provide reliable, steady demand for products made by the U.S. workers and supply chains of U.S. small businesses. These investments will provide opportunities to Americans who have been too often left behind, and they will make America more competitive. President Biden has called for jobs created by rebuilding America's infrastructure to be filled by diverse, local, well-trained workers who have a choice to join a union. This starts by expanding registered apprenticeship programs and investing in pipelines into these programs, due in large part to the hard work of North America's building trades unions and other unions. Registered apprenticeships have been a reliable pathway to the middle class for decades, including for workers who don't go to college, by training workers for good jobs and allowing them to earn while they earn. A Mathematica study shows workers can earn $240,000 more over the course of their lifetime, $300,000 when including benefits, by participating in these programs. Registered apprenticeships are especially important as we recover from the pandemic. This is what this young lady is saying is bullshit. By the way, does anybody remember like Trump playing up fucking vocational training as a pathway into the middle class for people on the lower end of the income spectrum? Anybody? No. Remember him getting behind the wheel of the truck going and pretending to drive, right? Because truckers. He's just sucking up to the ones who already have a fucking job. Good Lord.
Everybody in the middle, the hardworking people who listen to your show, who you know about and who you respect.
She's going to lie to them. Thanks for coming on there, Batya, and lying to these motherfuckers. You are lying to them. You are lying to Steve Bannon's audience. And to that end, you are, what do we say in the business? On brand.
They were not represented by either party until Trump came along. And Trump showed up and said, wait a minute, why is no one...
Bullshit. There is a side car to this whole conversation about the white working class as a large mass and the efforts towards racial inclusiveness that the Democrats have been pushing for a long time, that elements of the activist class in the racial inclusiveness group think that talking up like the white working class or involving in them is bad. Fuck them. They don't deserve it. Most of them, they view them as rural rednecks and poor people. That group. And if you don't believe me, ask Bernie Sanders, because he had a bunch of these fuckers stand up at his rallies and stuff, like whenever he would try to bring in that. When he was making the argument that Trump is going to scoop up these people and convince them that, that he's on their side if we don't reach out to them. And there were people standing there going, don't reach out to them because white people suck. And he was dealing with that. There's that wedge of those folks. And those folks are assholes. They're racists. They're just dicks. And they don't represent the vast majority of even the groups they purport to represent. And they certainly don't represent the working class rural people that have been kept alive and helped by all the programs that Democrats have put in place over the years, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, to name a few, not to mention the fucking public education system, where if left up to the Republicans, anybody in a rural area like I grew up would have just been a fucking illiterate unless their parents, made, like, homeschooled them specifically. If you weren't smart enough to be, if your parents weren't smart enough to homeschool you or didn't have the ability or the money to be able to have somebody stay home and do it, then fuck you. You deserve to work in a plant and lose your fucking fingers, right? That's the idea. hold on. What did he say? Are you a racist if you hate racists? No, not at all. I don't think so. Unless you only hate them because of their color, I suppose. Chat room. That's very funny. Anyways, this lady is bullshitting, is essentially my point. And there were, while there's a wedge of those people that would make that case, that made it hard for outreach from certain sectors of the Democratic Party about the white working class, which is a huge group of people. And Trump didn't give a fuck because he didn't care about anybody else. He had Blacks for Trump dude standing behind him who thinks that Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and fucking Oprah and Sidney Poitier and every other famous, I don't know, Chris Rock, they're all not really black people. They're half Cherokee and half East Indian, and they were involved in the slave trade. Like, this is fucking stupid. What that dude believes, what the fuck? But the point is, you have to be able to reach out to people who are in economic dire straits regardless, and you don't have to not address the fact that they're country white people or whatever. It shouldn't matter. It should not fucking matter. But it did to that group of people, and they made a big stink about it. And that's what drove them into Trump's camp in some ways. That was the argument that Bernie was making, and he was right about that. Most of the time, though, ain't even close to the case. And certainly the very people that she's saying support Trump because of his economic policies or some shit like that are all being helped by the reshoring of factories that Biden has been participating in, the vocational training that Biden has been talking about, the infrastructure improvements, specifically getting them broadband. Rural broadband is one of the biggest moves. And, of course, getting lead pipes out of the fucking ground, which will change, by the way, you want to talk about something that will change the voting statistics and the crime statistics in rural areas, which are the worst, throughout the entire fucking country over the next 30 goddamn years. It will be getting the lead pipes out of there, because the drip and drab lead poisoning that happens in a lot of these rural communities, is just as bad as when it happens in an inner city area, but it's more acute, so people pay attention. But out in the fucking sticks, nobody does. And when it happens to somebody, they're just a dumbass redneck that's just kind of mentally deficient. And instead of, they've been fucking poisoned systemically for years. I mean, look at the fucking Eastern Kentucky, that whole region. All those people have been poisoned by the runoff from coal from Virginia and West Virginia, just coming down the river, poisoning the rivers and streams, the water near them, toxifying their lives and giving them not only disease but mental deficiencies because of it. And those fucking people are the folks that Trump will round up. That's when he's like, I love the poorly educated. That's who he's fucking talking about. And Joe Biden, by removing that shit, you are going to see a new enlightenment in those areas of the world, because that's where we used to have what were called country gentlemen. We used to have rural whites who spoke multiple languages, who were of the sort of Thomas Jefferson ideal, where you were a deist, you didn't believe in the miracles in the Bible, but you believed in the importance of faith and all those kind of things. You got Lincoln teaching himself law while he's living there in a fucking log cabin. That kind of shit used to happen in those same areas. It's not in the soil and it's not in the blood. Yeah, Major Ojeda and I have talked about this personally a couple of times. So, Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner, though. The majority of them were at the time, and also Jefferson couldn't sell his because there was no law against it, so they would be scooped up. They couldn't live free. And so make that argument all you want to, but that's the Jefferson Bible is more important about that. And he wrote several treatises to try and end slavery in his lifetime. He just didn't trust that if he set his slaves free, that they wouldn't be scooped up, just so you know. And by the way, there weren't just white slave owners at that time. And Native American tribes, including the Cherokee, had slaves. The Cherokee had slaves until almost 10 years after the Civil War. Slavery was ubiquitous throughout the world until it was ended. So, it still technically goes on. But in the United States and other countries, it is illegal. And it has been ever since then. So understand that, overlaying your modern morals that in the time you grew up in on people who literally changed the system is misguided, I would think. Anyways, now back to what this dipshit is talking about.
Standing up for the hardworking American. And what I did for this book is
standing up for the hardworking American. who couldn't get a fucking loan because Donald Trump sucked up all the money that he didn't actually get to, like, he didn't deserve.
I traveled around the country and interviewed working class Americans. And let me tell you something, Steve, and you know this. Working class Americans, whether they vote for Democrats.
Mr. Spock, capitalism is not bad. It isn't. And by the way, capitalism is not just market economy either. I think that's an important distinction. Explain to me the difference between market economies where I work, I create a standard for what my work is worth, and I try to sell my labor to you at a premium, and then I can get something, and you go, if it's worth it to you, you'll pay me for it out of the work of your labor and that kind of stuff, and we have an exchange over that, versus capitalism, which is, I guess, technically someone stacking money somewhere so nobody else can get it. Is that what you're thinking? Because again, poor people globally, what does that mean? Yeah, capitalism is a good thing. It is the democratization of wealth.
Democrat or Republican, whether they're liberal or conservatives, they all have the same views. Like, neither party is really speaking to them. They all agree by and large about the most important issues. Polarization is a totally elite phenomenon.
It's his business model. You're out of your fucking mind? I mean, say what you will about, although I may occasionally, because of my own personal beliefs, polarize some folks. I don't think I do. I think I might just upset them. But I will say that most of the time, I believe in consensus and incremental progress, and I would argue governance based on understanding. We understand what the desired outcome is. We understand what our limitations currently are in how many people are for it, how many people are against it, whether they can be convinced at all, over what period of time they may become convinced. Maybe you have to do a pilot program of something so that people recognize its value before they go all in on it, and those kind of things. And then I guess maybe the third tier of it, the potential, like the pie in the sky version, best case scenario, worst case scenario, and you can work through all those things, right? That's what I would argue for most of the time. Yes? That makes sense? Okay.
Walk us through that.
So the elites are very, very polarized. If you talk to somebody who's been to college, conservative or liberal, somebody
like Wharton or something, you mean?
Who works in the media, elites. Somebody who works in the political elites. They look at the party platform, whether it's the GOP platform or the Democratic platform, and they're like, check, 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 check. Whatever the party tells them is the good and the right, they agree with. So
what? What? Sorry, I think that was kind of just gibberish. Yes. Oh, check the mic. It's parts of what I'm saying. I'm glitchy. Oh, I'm being attacked. Obviously, the deep state is after me. Oh, maybe it's let's see. I'll turn it down a touch. Maybe it's jostling. Audio. Check. Audio. Check. Probably just a DDoS attack. It's the elites. They came after me. That's what happened, Andrea. It's the elites.
There's no natural connection between supporting abortion on demand and believing in climate change and supporting an open border. Those things were cobbled together because they are all in the interests of the leftist elites.
Okay, first of all, abortion on demand is fucking ridiculous. Nobody's asking for abortion on demand. Even that phrase talks about women as if they just can't wait to flip out and kill a baby. That they just, at some point, women, because you can't trust them because they're hysterical messes, are going to go, I don't like being pregnant anymore. Get it out. I don't care what you do with it. Just get it out. That's abortion on demand. Nobody's asking for abortion on demand. They have the right to do it within a reasonable, fix it audio, sound, fix it audio. Okay, all right, let me see what I can do. I don't know why. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to check on my own end, see if it's not a... It's going to be terrible, and I'll probably get a feedback issue on it. Let me see if I can hear myself. Check 1, check 2, check 2, check 3. What are you doing? Okay, I toggled. I'm toggling. Why is it not toggling? All right, let me see if it's a screen. Hold on. Canceled. Audio sounds fine to you guys? Yeah. Okay. No Twitch audio? Okay, you might have to reload your page. It might be a YouTube thing. Thank you, Holly. Abortions are not fun. Exactly. Well, this idea, again, that abortion on demand is a hashtag phrase meant to denigrate women. That's what it's for. That it's meant to point the finger at women and say women are disgusting and will be, and can't be trusted to make these decisions themselves, because at some point they will flip out and decide just to kill their baby. And that's what Trump is pushing. That's what she's pushing. And that's what the phrase abortion on demand means to the general public, and certainly to her. That and nobody's asking for it that I know of. What some activists will say is none of your fucking business, and if I want an abortion tomorrow, I'm going to get one, because they're trying to stop you. And so they're saying you have no right to say. Everything they say about if I want one at 8.5 months, it's none of your goddamn business. What they're saying is stay out of my life. But I don't think any of them are, most of the people that I've heard talk about this or even discuss it at one of these events, or they get a, like the libs of TikTok crowd, get a mic in front of them and go, this is what they, this is what they believe. Most of them aren't going to have kids in the first place and are there making a point about absolute women's rights. That's the point. It's up to them. Shut the fuck up. But the idea, the phrase on demand means a woman, she doesn't need it. She's just kind of like again, hysterical woman stuff would be the idea. It's gross.
And so if you're in those leftist elites, you're like, oh, these are all my priorities.
Also, why would a leftist elite, I'd love to, Kadash, I'm for it. Then I would say, if she's a liberal and she's saying the liberal elites want this, well then in theory, the rank and file liberals, I think, would understand a version of that, right? So if the elites wanted it as an absolute, again, abortion on demand as a concept, but the average liberal would go, I just want, anytime you want, but I don't think, maybe, I just think you should be able to have an 8.5-month abortion. I just believe that, but they need it. I don't fucking get it as a phrase. Who are these liberal elites that she's talking about? Honestly, I don't know. I would like to know, have a definition of who these people are.
If you are
Now my mic's too low. Is that what's happening? Is it too quiet? Hey-o. Hey-o. Check it. Check it. Check it. Check it. Hold on. I was checking my mic and bring it up a little bit. There we go. Check, check 1, check 2. Hey, check. Is that a little better? Hope so.
Hardworking American, those are not your priorities. You go issue by issue and say, well,
Okay, fuck you. That's what platforms are for. That is issue by issue. What the fuck? You think the Republicans don't have a point on abortion in their platform? What the fuck are you talking about? And also, how do you define what your party's about if you don't go through the main issues of the day and go, hey guys, let's sit in a room. What's our general consensus on this? What makes us Republicans or Democrats about this? How the fuck is just being organized or just having your shit together on an issue, or even, by the way, democracy in and of itself inside your own group, where you're going, okay, we got an 80% consensus in here that this is how we're going to word it, right? How is that elite? What makes that? How is it elite to fucking clean your room?
I'm a Christian, so I would never get an abortion, but I know somebody who was raped, so I don't want it to be banned. You say, well, I have a family member who's gay and I want them to be treated with dignity, but I have a child in school and I'm terrified of the trans agenda, right? You have this, because the American working class is deeply tolerant. And so that is how they approach the world.
Hold it.
All right, first of all, again, she's talking to a guy who is in charge of an extremist view from the Maga side of things. I don't know what the fuck she's talking about.
I've got to bring my other, so hold it. Because, and let me say this, and I think because this book is getting so much, your book, and you're a progressive or a liberal Democrat, your book is the antidote to the book of the moment. And I think when you come out, you're going to see that. This book is what they're all talking about. White rural rage, the threat to American democracy. Now, They've just taken the same group that you've looked at and the same statistics. And do we have that clip I sent you earlier about him being on the on the morning show? Just let me know what's up. They take the same.
First of all, can I just say for the record, I have not read that book, and so I can't speak to its content. But White Rural Rage is a terrible title to say, especially to speak. White Rural Rage in and of itself, like you don't have to have an oversized tongue like I do to run into trouble trying to say that, and then add white on top. White Rural Rage, right? It's terrible. It's a terrible title. Just saying. And it's Tom Schiller and Paul Wadman. I don't know.
Same group that you've studied and traveled the country to do, and the same statistical analyses you've looked at, they have come to the exact opposite conclusion. That white working class, particularly white working class, are not in cities or not in suburbs, but the rural.
Well, that wouldn't be the white working class, then fucking would it? White rural rage is not the same as white working class rage, which, by the way, would be a way better title and way easier to say. I got to tell you, if that's what's in the book, and that's what you were actually talking about, somebody at the fucking publisher would have said, why don't we call it White Working Class Rage? It's so easy, it rolls off the tongue compared to White Rural Rage, which sounds like you're choking on soup.
Working class are the most xenophobic, nativist, racist, and they say now dangerous group in American history since the Confederates and the Civil War. In fact, they make direct analogies to the Confederates, to the Southern states in the Civil War.
Why? Because those people, some of the people they interviewed literally go to like Daughters of the Confederacy meetings and dress up in Confederate clothing a couple times a year and wanted the Robert E. Lee statue to stay up and shit like that. Why would you think that?
What do they see? What are they?
White hillbilly rage? That's not bad too. That's certainly easier to say. White rural rage.
What do you see?
Hold on one second. That reminds me. Can I just say for one fucking second, can I jump in here real quick? Let me just say, I feel seen. I've always wanted to say that. I've never had a chance to say that before, and now I feel seen. What's the fuck? What's he talking about? I was hanging out. I was out there in the outhouse. I had to see a man about a mule.
That they've missed or are misinterpreting.
Yeah, tell it. Hey, lady from Elite University, with the New Yorker magazine hairdo. Tell him, the dude who doesn't bathe, what he gets wrong about people like me.
It's such a slander on this great nation, and I say that as a Jewish person.
Why would that factor in? Also, I would argue maybe, I know some of these motherfuckers, but do you ever think maybe like pick up a copy of that book, to give a call to the author to go, hey, can I talk to some of these people you talk to, and maybe say, as a Jewish American, and see how their eye starts to twitch.
I cannot sit here and allow this kind of slander.
You haven't even read the fucking book, lady. Look, I may not know how to read, but at least I know what I ain't read yet. How do you you're just going on what he says is in the book, dum-dum. This ain't church.
Of the American people to go unopposed. This book, this is the wishful thinking of over-credentialed college elites who have turned their back on the working class.
How the fuck do you know? Lady, they talk. I got news for you. Even with the title, real quick, how do you know that the authors don't come down on their side and go, they have a point, but their rage has been weaponized by some bad people? Or are you just going to, like, believe the dust flap version that fucking Bannon, a.k.a. Bill Barr, just told you?
And who hate America. 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 And who hate
Well, obviously they only hate the places where you can get ticks in America.
And this is their wishful thinking as their justification. Oh, we don't have to care about the working class because they...
Hey, again, have you read the book?
They're racist. You know what, Steve? Something that you have taught me
is that racists deserve better. What? What did he teach you? What did he teach you? Soap is the enemy. Well, no, what did he teach you? Bedbugs are your friends.
First, probably before anybody else, the working class in MAGA is multiracial. Guess what? Donald
Yeah, we got two kinds of music, country and western.
Trump was polling at 8% of black men. In 2020, he got 18%. He's now polling 20 to 30% of black men. You can imagine what he's going to get. The majority of Hispanics, who, by the way, the majority of that community is working class, they're also part of the MAGA movement. They're on the Trump train. This is...
Yeah, that's anti-immigrant fervor. That ain't because they believe he's an emblematic of the white working class or some shit like that. They think they're joining him because they think they can win the lottery like him.
Absolute cope by a left that has abandoned...
How do you... Again, you got to tell me if you've read that fucking book. Because if you have and that's what's in it, then whatever the fuck. But I have... Have you? Shit.
Labor to cater to their vanity morals and masqueraded...
Vanity morals? What are vanity morals? That it's okay if you let Prince finger bang you on screen, but never be caught in your lingerie dancing for Morris Day? No, that ain't it. That's Apollonia morals. Vanity morals. That would be watch your skirt size in The Last Dragon.
Is the good guys while hating this country.
How did the Democratic Party, because I come from a Democratic Union family, and we split over the Vietnam War, right?
You were for it?
My family left, and they were huge Reagan. I mean, when Reagan came, and I remember in the 60s saying, well, Reagan's was just a small-time actor when they were, kids in the 30s. They became huge Reagan folks, right? Because they were Reagan Democrats. How did the Democratic Party...
Hold on. First of all, hit the like, folks. Just let me know you're there. Jesus Christ. They said there's a lot of people in this. We got a huge crowd today. I'm getting a little nervous. Anyways.
Party. What happened to the Democratic Party that it left its...
Also, some people are wondering in the chat room why I'm on a spaceship. Well, I'll have you know that I was one of the few alien abductees that responded well to probing. And so now I just vacation here. I just use it as I get a checkup every so often. I just, I'm like, what's happening, Ningbok? That's what one of the guys' name is. And I'm just like, take care of my poop shoot. And then I'm just going to go stand over there and look at the view.
Working class base and really allowed it because Buchanan talked a little bit about it. Then Perot talked about it. Then the Tea Party talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, Buchanan was talked to the racist side of it. Fucking Perot was just trying to be like fucking Napoleon Hill. Listen here. Now, some people have told me that I look a bit like Napoleon Hill, but with no teeth. I have been told over the course of my life, ladies and gentlemen, you too can be rich and powerful beyond measure if you practice certain principles and take care to focus on your goals and have a goal. I can do that real well. That's what Perot was doing. He did doing basically an impersonation. He's doing an impersonation of Napoleon Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that through the focus of your mind, you can eventually have all the wealth and good favor in life that you could possibly want. And I can explain to you because it is the American way. That's right. And that I had a son who was born completely without ears, who eventually learned how to hear through the focus of power of positive thinking and also scientific advancements that happened outside of my knowledge at the time. So I just hoped and wondered, and thankfully time passes forward, and he eventually got a little thing he could stick in his ear and he'd be able to hear. It was wonderful. Cochlear implants, they called them, and that's basically why I'm on a spaceship. It's a different kind of an implant, but it still works.
About it, but left it open for Donald Trump to kind of run the tables. How did they abandon the working class of this country?
Yeah, tell them how they had. Hey, my voice is sounds a lot deeper after doing that Ross Perot shit. I just want to say I'm a lot more macho.
They decided to start catering to the college credentialed elites.
Oh, that's terrible. In what way? Did it have anything to do with the fact that we moved away from an industrial coal-based economy towards a technological financial version of them, and that's where most of the money was actually made, and therefore that's where most of the tax base came from, and all the social programs that we wanted for people would actually have to come from, you know, those kind of folks, perhaps? Nah.
They created an economy that was extremely rewarding to people in the knowledge industry, and
They did? And how did they do that? By not listening to the Luddites, by showing absolute disdain for the Amish and the Pennsylvania Dutch. That's what happened. They didn't like them.
extremely punishing to people who work with their hands for a living. And the way they did that was first they shipped the good-paying manufacturing jobs overseas to China.
They did? How did they do that? Did they use UPS? So Democrats and Republican elites shipped those jobs overseas.
And Mexico to build up their middle class. Then they opened the border and imported an entirely new slave caste to undercut service industry jobs that remained here. And they, with all of this, signaled to the working class, you're nothing.
Well, I think also one of the signals would be that, you know, you ain't got to wait tables and wash dishes. We have somebody who will do that for little money, and perhaps you could get a job doing something slightly better. Also, definitely the factories being shipped overseas were a big suck. But I'd like to say for the record that businesses did that because it was cheaper. You know, I mean, it's why I'm wearing bamboo underwear.
You are nothing. You do a job that actually we rely on to exist. You are nothing. You only matter if you have a high IQ and you go, or these people.
Check yourself, lady. Because I'll tell you one thing. Ain't nobody ever walked up and said that to me and walked away with more teeth than I have.
Are not all intelligent, by the way. You go and you get these credentials, and then they sit
Yeah, like Ted Cruz. He went to Harvard. He's dumb as shit.
there and they trade in credentialism. They have no respect for this country or for the values of this country or for the value of hard work.
So why does Joe Biden walk a picket line then? Why is he the union president? Why is he focused on that his entire existence? If he's a Democrat and Democrats and the Republicans they had a handshake deal to fuck everybody, then is he just gone rogue? Is he the true maverick, ma'am?
Sit around in their universities and confer plaudits on each other, and then they say, oh, if you...
Ooh, plaudits. Them's them little bugs with the teeny little legs or whatever. They don't bite, but they crawl on you when you sleep, and then they go up your nose. I heard that like the average human being swallows 6 pounds of plaudits over the course of their life, and 13 pounds if they snore.
You don't have a credential, you don't deserve the American dream. That was Clinton, that was Obama. Everybody's going to go to college. Not everyone wants to go to college. And by the way,
yeah, that wasn't the point. It wasn't everybody going to go to college. Everybody who wants to go to college will have the ability to go to college. That ain't the same as everybody's going to go to college. There's a bunch of people who couldn't go to college. Fuck, hold on. I have a friend who would like to speak to you for a minute, ma'am. Yeah, so I wanted to go to college, but this was before Clinton. This was during Reagan and Bush one, and I couldn't afford it. So I didn't, and I went to work. Now, I would have loved to been able to do both. I would have loved to have been able to move out to LA and go to school out here and afford school out here. And while I was acting and starting my career and all that stuff, would have been fantastic. And as a matter of fact, what did I do? I took the money that I earned doing stand-up and other stuff, and I paid for extension courses at UCLA. And so I took screenwriting and editing classes. I took like an acting class they had at one point, which sucked. So I only went to the first 3 because it was terrible. But I went, and I fucking paid for it with my own money. I didn't get a refund. That's for goddamn sure. I would have loved to have done both, but I couldn't afford it. So I just went to work. If the programs that Clinton and Obama had put into place were in existence when I'd done that, I would have been able to.
Most college educated people are underemployed and still making more than working class people. It's an absolute
What? They're underemployed and still working more than working class people. Okay, first of all, this fucking moron has no idea how much truckers and like train engineers and staff and stuff make at all.
outrage. When they realized how much money there was in the knowledge industry, they increasingly started catering to those voters. Let me tell you something. 97% of donations coming out of Silicon Valley go to Democrats.
Right, because they need workers who are educated, and they may disagree with Democrats on taxation, for example, because they'd like to keep a lot more of their money, but they're never going to have enough workers who can do the high-tech work that will keep their companies afloat if dumbed down Donald is in business all the time and shuts this shit down. What the fuck are you Of course they are.
The majority of Americans making over $500,000 a year are Democrats. 9 of the 10 richest counties.
Right. And that's Democrats' fault. Fuck are you talking about?
In this country now vote.
Why isn't this a conversation about how Republicans keep their own voters poor?
For Democrats. And the majority of donations coming out of Wall Street went to Joe Biden and not to Donald Trump.
Right, because he almost destroyed the economy. They were already headed into a recession when he got into office. Even though they don't like Democrats for taxation, they know that the stable, focused growth and genuine understanding of what's going on is more valuable than some asshole who bankrupt a fucking casino.
Because these elites hate Trump because he represents the return of the middle class.
No, he doesn't.
The rise of the working class and the...
No, he doesn't. What rise? What rise?
Pride of the working class. That's what they hate and why they...
Okay. Pride I will give you. As a country boy, when I was growing up, nobody beat us for being full of shit and full of ourselves. And let me tell you, as a comedian, when you're starting out, you need 2 things. Say it with me, kids. You need 2 things when you're starting out as a comedian. Arrogance and stupidity. These are your 2 best friends. Because look, the difference between an amateur and a professional is an amateur can do anything a professional can do. Professional can just do it again tomorrow. But a comedian, unlike singing, unlike acting, any of these other things, as a comic, you only learn on stage. And so you have to believe you're going to make a group of people laugh professionally before you ever set foot on stage. That's arrogance. That is, and I will cop to it. Arrogance saved my ass when I was a kid. And ignorance, specifically the ignorance of being willfully dumb. Dumb is when you don't know. Ignorance is when you know better, but you do it anyways. And you act in a way that's kind of stupid because you have to. You want to get what you're going to like. It's a risk that's worth making, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. And so eventually that turns into confidence. Spend enough time on stage, you develop confidence. But in the beginning, arrogance and ignorance. And I got to say, being specifically a redneck set me up for that because I was surrounded, again, one of the biggest jokes you hear about the South, if you grow up there, and it's someplace that she's only spent time to write a fucking book. It's abundantly clear. One of the biggest, most common jokes you'll hear in the South is, what does a redneck say right before he dies? Check this out. Or watch this. There's a variance of the punchline, but you get the point. Hey guys, watch this. That's the, yeah. So point being, she's the female J.D. Vance. I don't know. She seems like the New York, you know what she seems like? You know that woman who wrote White Rage? No, it wasn't White Rage. It was the book on white privilege. I don't know. It was like this anti-racist book that was out for a while. And I read it. It was like, I can't remember the title of it right now, but it's like singularly one of the most racist books I've ever read in my life. It's fucking horrifying. But it was clear that this woman was shocked by her own racist thoughts. That when she sees a black person or a Hispanic person or an Asian person, she has thoughts that make her go, "Oh God, that was terribly racist." Like when she became aware of it. And instead of going, my goodness, I might have to clean up the way I think, she didn't do that. She went, everybody like me, white, it wasn't white like me. Right. She was like, everybody who's white must think like I do. That must be how it goes. It's not that I have a personal problem. It must be that all white people think like I do. I can't possibly be racist by myself. This has to be kind of an undercurrent thing that we all have, which is fucking bullshit, by the way. And don't drag me into your personal hell, lady. But for the record, it like her book seems like this. This is like the white working class version of her. Like, she's embarrassed by being a New York elite, it seems. Because I gotta say, if anybody's that's ever been on the War Room has an NPR tote bag, it's this young lady. Yes? See what I mean? I'm not getting a sort of Daisy Duke vibe of it. She didn't tour around the fucking South and then have a Reese Witherspoon Lifetime movie moment where she's like, I don't need all this city-fied living. I'm gonna... Right. That, that shit. So she's got... they always talk about, like, liberal guilt as the driving force for why people want, I don't know, decent social programs and the like, some bullshit. This seems like she's got elite guilt. Yeah.
They write this stuff, this drivel. They can't.
Again, at least tell us whether you read it or
not stand the idea that people who work with their hands for a living should have dignity.
What in there you can see it.
She's got a very Marianne Williamson stare right now. This kind of like mad about something that you're not sure you're mad about or why you're mad about it.
The fix is in because they're in back of this book. This book, yes. These guys are everywhere, right? You see this?
Well, but see, in a way, you gave them the playbook because you said in 2015 they're going to be talking about racism all day and we're going to win with economic populism. Yes. And this is what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you, first of all, how did you know that? How did you come to this insight that the working class is where it's at? And B, how did you convince Trump?
Well, Trump can read a room. I mean, President Trump, you could see in 12 and 13 was coming to CPAC. And I met with him in 2010 with Dave Bossie. He has a great feel for people. Remember, he's a people person and he's a marketer. He knows, and he has a great. He also comes from Queens. I mean, he just has a great instinct. When I first saw him making these speeches early on of the CPAC, where Dave Bossie set these things up, he was not talking with the nomenclature or the rhythm or the structure of the other Republicans. He was talking in a totally new vernacular, and people would lean into it. And I said, right there, you're seeing a change in American politics. President Trump understands. Shaw says only connect.
Hold on. I found a copy of this book. Let's jump into this real quick. This is just a sample of it that you can read on Amazon. Small Towns, Big Trouble. This is the first chapter, or the prologue. So that'll give us a little bit of an idea. Okay. Let's see. Blow that shit up. I'm gonna zoom it in a little bit because it's a little small on this page. There we go. Friend Jason Aldean recorded a song praising small town values, and the radical left has canceled him for him. Why? Because they want every town in America to look like socialist disasters in California and New York. This was the beginning of a fundraising email for the National Republican Congressional Committee in July 2023, responding to the controversy over Try That in a Small Town, the single that country star Aldean had recently released. The song's lyrics is a list of alleged liberal urban horrors, people spitting in cops' faces, robbing liquor stores, burning American flags, as well as the specter of gun confiscation, and they issue a challenge. Well, try that in a small town, see how far you make it down the road. Aldean, whose oeuvre is heavy with well-worn tributes to rural life, was not canceled. In fact, his fantasy of vigilante violence meted out against urbanites, supposedly ready to bring their criminal mayhem to the idol of rural America, became his greatest success. Conservative media defended him, Republican politicians praised him, and Try That in a Small Town became Aldean's biggest crossover hit, shooting to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Had Aldean released his ode to resentment and vigilantism a decade earlier, it might not have made the news, let alone become the controversy it did, but coming out when it did, with hostility between rural and urban America intensifying as the country headed into a presidential election that promised an even more profound division between the two, the song was bound to produce a fiery reaction. For Republicans, it was a gift, yet another implement they could use to convince their rural supporters that Blue America was a socialist disaster to be feared and hated. The criticism the song received from liberals only reinforced this point. That's where I'm always telling, like, look for the hook, kids. I know you see the worm, but look for the hook. Oh, thanks, Diana. The undercurrents that produced this controversy are the reason we wrote this book. We stand at what may be the most dangerous moment for American democracy since the Civil War. So this is where we get what Bannon said about the book, because he perused the prologue. Because I always love when people talk about a book on a show, and then if you look at the first, like, 2 pages or the dust flap, and you'll see them, like, they have just quoted it in their own words or picked or repeating chunks of it verbatim, not what's in the actual depth of the book, but actually just the first thing you see when you pop it open on the front. It's it's so fucking on the nose. A great deal of attention bestowed upon rural whites since Donald Trump's ascension in 2016, yet the discussion has overlooked a vital political truth this book hopes to illuminate. The democratic attachments of rural white Americans are faltering. Rural America has suffered greatly in recent decades. Layered atop cultural resentments that are nearly as old as our country, this suffering has produced powerful antipathies that are aimed not just at certain groups of Americans, but often at the American democratic system itself. Were rural white Americans as disempowered as they believed themselves to be, their anger would be impotent. They would mutter, "Try that in a small town," to themselves, indulging in meaningless fantasies of revenge against liberals and urbanites they despise, but they are not disempowered. In fact, in critical ways, they have more power than any other large demographic group in America. This power has already destroyed the outcomes of our system's produces, leaving us in an age of minority rule in which, to take just one example, the party that won fewer votes in 7 of the last 8 presidential elections managed to assemble an activist 6-3 supermajority of the Supreme Court, one that is now busy making the laws that all of us live under to conform with right-wing policy vision that overwhelming majorities of the public do not share. This, and by the way, this is exactly what she was talking about this sort of consensus idea that we all kind of believe in this normalcy, like we're pro-gay, but the trans agenda stuff, all that shit she's talking about, that's like the middle of the road that everybody buys in on, right? That's the point they're making. This is white rural rage, the threat to American democracy. This minority rule is a consequence of a disproportionate power wielded by rural whites, power that is often justified on the right by the insistence that these are the worthiest Americans, the ones that possess the most possessed of virtue and values, and that therefore it is only proper that their votes count for more. And again, in the Senate, they do. And they lose out in the Electoral College, but in the Senate, states that have fewer people in them than some suburbs in bigger states have 2 senators. If the states couldn't qualify as a state unless they had a certain population in them, sort of another variation on how the House works, we wouldn't even be talking about this shit. The fact that their votes do count for more is why Donald Trump became president in the first place. Also, because faux-gressives and weak-kneed Democrats phoned it in an election, and Hillary Clinton lost the Electoral College. Don't get me started again on that one. We should regain the White House. It will be rural whites who return him there. Yet, even as the threat to American democracy Trump represents has become the subject of enormous concern and debate, few have connected that threat to its essential source, rural white America. Name a force or impulse that threatens the stability of American political system, distrust in the fairness of elections, conspiracy theorizing, the embrace of authoritarianism, and it's almost always more prevalent among rural whites than among those living elsewhere. Even as they are in some ways the greatest beneficiaries of democracy's distribution of influence, rural whites are the least committed to our system. While at various times in American history, some extraordinarily creative and progressive movements began in rural areas, today most of rural America is gripped by a right-wing politics that is angry when it should be constructive and passive when it should be engaged. To many, the most cynical and malevolent characters in the political world, this is all part of the plan. Keep rural Americans bitter, and they'll be easily manipulated force of destruction when democracy doesn't produce the proper results. The worse rural Americans feel, the better this plan works. The devastating force of late-stage capitalism has inflicted enormous damage on rural Americans. Okay, yeah, this is where we're at. That's why he picked this. This is a This is he views this as Steve Bannon views this as a socialism screed. Anybody who says late stage capitalism, that's a red flag. That is the window through which they say this, that capitalism is dying, and that these people are mad because this would arguably be the Bernie Sanders argument from 8 years ago. Yeah, that's why he picked it. That's why this book, as opposed to anything else about how they vote, right? And the solution, I don't know that there is one. Resource economies where powerful interests extracted wealth and left people who toiled to remove it with little or nothing for decades of labor, manufacturing jobs. Okay, for the record, she sides with this book. This book is her, but for a few buzzwords is where she goes. Just saying. Okay.
He had just a visceral connection with working class people, and you could see it every time he went. Tell you, let's
bullshit. They liked the fact that he was racist towards the right people, this particular group. And the fact that you want to talk about just being dismissive of the white working class, understand this. The fucking maggots that show up at his rallies are not the white working class, and they're not even, I would argue, emblematic of the rural white working class. That's his assumption. That's this motherfucker as an elite saying that the people who can afford to drive in a fucking Winnebago across the country and go to dozens of Trump rallies, or the fucking people at the villages, or the people who have boat rallies for this dumb motherfucker, or people who bitch about how much groceries cost but have 19 Trump flags hanging off the back of their fucking truck, that those people are indicative of Eastern Kentucky or hyper rural parts, the edges of Wichita and places like that. Get the fuck out of here. The people that show up are like the Chip Roys of rural whites. They dress the part. They wear fucking cowboy hats. They all drive pickup trucks, and they drive the pickup truck to fucking Target.
take a short break. We're here at the book, and your book's going to come out in about a month, I think it is.
April 2nd, yeah.
April 2nd. I've got a lot. In fact, if we can play, maybe get the AOC was chased around. Because you're from Brooklyn. You're from the heart of the beast.
What'd I tell you? She's from Brooklyn. That's exactly it. It's the same as that lady who wrote the fucking anti-racism book that was the most racist thing I've ever read. That's exactly it. She grew up in Brooklyn, like upper class and all this stuff, and somehow is selling this idea that she knows what fucking rural whites went through. And half these motherfuckers, and this is, let me see if I can, I'm going to bring up something. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see if I can find this one. Da, 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 da. Go away. Go away. No, they don't. Why don't they have a picture? Son of a bitch. Let me show you a little story real quick, if I may. The Great Winter Flood, December 1978. I was 8 years old. A massive winter flood that struck Frankfurt in December 1978 was the worst the state capital had seen. According to the National Weather Service, the Kentucky River crested at a record 48.74 feet, a full foot over the crest of the Great Flood of 1937. More than half of downtown Frankfurt was flooded, forcing around 1,000 people to flee their homes. In addition to the Kentucky River, the Salt River in Shepherdsville, South Fork Licking River in Cynthiana, Rolling Fork in Boston, and Green River in Munfordville all had record flooding. 5 people were killed and damages exceeded $50 million, which is like the cost of the whole fucking place. This is from the flood of 1997, but this is what it looked like where I was during that time. Let's see if I can find pictures of it. Let's see. Let's see if I can get images. Try to find old pictures because let's see. Let's see. Well, there's this, I don't know, this is a realtor.com picture. Okay. This is, as in the actual one, though. Hey, wait a second, though. Here you go. I'll show you something. This is my church when I was growing up. This is Peaks Mill Christian Church. It's a very nice picture. A little white steeple church. That extension was built in the 80s. When I lived there when I was a kid, it was just this part. On the other side is the cemetery. The Peaks Mill Cemetery is there. I don't know what if I get another pictures we're gonna. Yeah. Here's this is where I grew up. This is what it looks like when it rains heavily and the river comes up. Yeah, a lot of houses like this. A little closer to this when I was growing up there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the peak. This is the Peaks Mill Christian Church cemetery. And this is Old Peaks Mill Road right here. This is basically what my neighborhood was like growing up. If I wanted to go visit a friend, I don't know, that's in Frankfurt a long time ago. It was a walk. So I had a friend named Jonathan who lived close to Frankfurt, and I met him when they started busing me into the city. And if I wanted to go see him and hang out, and my parents weren't home, and this is no cell phone, no nothing, right? This pre-beeper, right? I would walk this road about 12 miles. This is that there was if you go into Frankfurt and back out to his house, it was a long way. But if you took one of the country roads straight through, it was almost a straight shot. And I could walk 12 miles. It was basically like after they dropped me off from school, I could just start walking, and I'd be there before sundown. We had a horse, but our neighbor had a horse, but I couldn't take it out or something. That's not, that's somewhere else. Yeah, this is a house on Old Peaks Mill Road. This is what most of the area looked like. If you look at the houses around here, this is what you'd see: a house and a barn, or oh, okay. This house, we used to drive by this house all the time. It had a mill attached to it. If this is the same one, because it looks like it. The last of one of the tribes that was in the area was killed from that window. Long story, but they shot out of that window. Yep. These are big areas. Yeah, there's the old mill. Look, I get a Peaks Mill t-shirt. Isn't that nice? Peaks Mill. We're not in the middle of nowhere, because that'd be somewhere. That's more Lexington. And this is the creek. This is Elkhorn Creek. This was behind my house. This is where I saved, over the course of the time I lived there, 7 people from drowning. That was a record. You're welcome. One, I actually did 2 at a time. I was swimming with, they were having a chili cook-off at the house, in the field next to our house, and everybody was gathered there. And I didn't do CPR on this one. That was in the city. That was in town at the pool. But a friend of my dad's had a daughter and a son. The son was 8, I think, and his daughter was 10, and I was her age. and we were all swimming, and you weren't supposed to swim over in this area because, well, I think it's like this shots reversed, but effectively you had one of these little turnarounds, which it looks like nothing, but there's a drop off there. It's like a hole it's like a sinkhole underneath it, and you can kind of just sit there and the water runs across. The water's very shallow, and then there's places where you can swim, but then there are these other places that are basically just like a well almost. And if you fell in, it would roll you. You'd bump your head on the side. A lot of people drown that way. So, get ready. This is one of the most Jesus-y moments in my young country life. True story. So we're swimming, and the little brother gets too close to that edge, and I'm yelling at him, and she runs over and grabs him, and he by the arm, and he goes like this, and he falls in and just vanishes into the water. And she jumps in after him, and I'm like, don't! And I run over there. There's nobody around, and I yell at the house, but nobody can hear me because they're playing bluegrass. And like if I go up there and I get back, they're done. So I, like a crazy person, dive straight in because I know the size of that hole, and I figure it's the three of us in there. We could push each other kind of up and out that way or whatever as kids. This is my thinking at the time. So I dive in there, and I can see in the water when I get close to them, she's holding him like this. She just got him in her arms like this. I was 10. She's got her arms around him like this. I might have been 11, just turned 11. And I put my arm, or I'm trying to put my arm in her because he's just doing this, whatever. So I can't grab him, but I try to shove my arm down into her arm to get a hold of her to try and like get up enough to like pull us up. And I'm feeling around, just splashing at fucking water like this. And I'm like, we're going to drown. I remember very distinctly going, we're going to drown. And I'm holding her arm like this. And I'm like, Jesus help me. So it was bad. Again, I went to the Peaks Mill Christian Church. I was an irritant in Sunday school because I read the Bible twice all the way through. And I was like, God, I need your help. Please, Jesus, please help me. Please help me, whatever. And I kept reaching up like this. And I grabbed what turned out to be the root of one of the trees that was there and had that was where it was one of these guys over here. And it was just sticking out enough where I could get my arm in it and slide forward like that. So I had her and this, and then I just did this. I was just like shaking my little fucking skinny body, and I was like this. And as I pulled up, our heads came up out of the water like this, and they could breathe or whatever. And I grabbed the other limb like this, or the root rather, that was sticking out of there like that with this other arm. And I was just basically like the force of my hands being pulled apart was kind of like squeezing me on the wood like that. And I was just like fucking gulping air, and she pushes him up and he rolls out onto the flat part of it. And then she like followed him out and I'm like this, and she starts yelling at him about, you almost got us killed. You done, and I'm like, hey, I'm still fucking here. And I'm like, they're not gonna help. So I just was like, it was almost funny. And I put my arms around like this, and I just locked like that. And I just put my leg up onto the side of the, like where the kind of the crest of that hole was, and just rolled myself up and came up. And my arm was all scuffed and scarred in here for weeks. And and we all walked up to the house, and my lips were blue because I was skinny and my lips always get blue when I was swimming. But my mom was like, no, you can't go in the creek anymore. Your lips are blue. And I was like, that's not the half of it. And I started crying because I was all adrenalized and afraid. And then they told everybody what had happened. And there was a big hoopla, big, like, for he's a jolly good fellow for me or whatever. And I was like crying and smiling at the same time. I was like, it's time you go in. Oh, all right. Will do. It's Tom Y. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, I will. Fantastic. Thanks, T2 Baseball. I asked you before if it was actually you, and it is you, and that's awesome. Oh, I insist. Okay, will do. I'll take you out to dinner. You'll get your 20 bucks back. Anyways, that basically was. It wasn't at this point in the creek, because where we were, there was a lot. It was further up here. I think I can't really judge from where this angle is, but it looked. We had way more trees, like tall trees. This wasn't flat. The Kings, Susan Kingsley and her husband had a farm across from us, across the creek, and so they had a big wall of trees, and that's what it would have been on the other side. And ours are, but we had that too. It's also how my buddy Mike Brewer almost drowned, and I went in after him and dragged him out, and that was scary because we hit a drop off we weren't expecting. We were just we were like wading, swimming, and we both fell in. We just like went out to swim like this, and then it was like way too fucking deep, and we both sunk. And I remember looking over at him underwater, and he was breathing in water. And I was like, if I don't learn to swim, we're both dead. This was before that. This was when I was 8. But this is the part of the country. I mean, this is what Peaks Mill looks like. This, if you really want to know, this is what this. But from a hill. This is, yeah. This is what the area I grew up looks like. Meanwhile, this Brooklyn lady wants to tell me that I don't fucking know what, that I'm part of the elite Democratic group of people that doesn't understand the white working class. The fuck out of here, lady. Just a little backstory. Just fucking see my high school picture? I don't know that I have one. You know what? I'll dig it up. I missed most of my high school pictures because I didn't like my face. That's true. I would not show up for a lot of pictures because I didn't like my face. Yeah. So, anyways, all right. So that was the end of that lady. Again, and by the way, chat room, love you guys. There you go. Nikki might win Vermont. That would be awesome. Wouldn't be surprising. Be good. How much time oh shit, I went well over, didn't I? Good Lord. This became a big one. Okay, well, I'll let you guys go. I hope that was informative and interesting and the like. And Tom, I will give you a call. And I will see you very soon, I hope. That would be awesome. I don't blame Brooklyn for Batya at all. Not at all, for the record. Yeah, hope you all voted. Absolutely. Where's Chip? I don't know. Shall I go try to find Chip? Talk amongst yourselves. Let me see what I can do. I think Maddie's who everybody wants to see today. This is Maddie. Maddie's here. Maddie was laying on the couch upstairs. Molly's really hard to grab because she doesn't like it, but Chip is he was he was laying there, and I could have grabbed him, but we don't get to see Molly as often, or Maddie as often. So there she is. She's such a sweet girl. Yeah. She's such a pretty girl. She's gorgeous. She's a little stupid, but she's gorgeous. Just saying. She's a beautiful girl. Yeah, you're right. Is that right? There you go. She's just so relaxed, too. She's very chill. And she'll just lay there and let you pat her. Yeah. Her. Right, really. Nice. So, there she is. Aw. Yeah. How you doing?
You doing, sweet girl? You okay, Maddie? Yeah.
What's going on? She's seeing the text go by. She doesn't know what that is, so she's watching the chat go by. Yeah. She's such a relaxed cat. It's so great.
You're so wonderful. You're such a wonderful girl. You're so lovely. She's so lovely.
And she's a cuddler too. She's also a ball stepper. This is the one that stomps my balls on the regular. She walks right back and forth across them on the regular all the goddamn time. It's brutal. But we love her anyways. And if you scratch her belly, she starts making cookies, but with nails. So that's even better, because then there are holes in your arm. Look, she's starting to do it. She started to reach out with her other paw. See her paw down here? She started to reach out like, yeah, I should put lots of little holes in your arm. Yeah. So anyways, love you guys. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Help keep us all, fed and insured here and all that kind of stuff, because this is the job now. This is the gig, folks. Also, just if you can't afford to help the show or become a Patreon, that's totally cool. I love you anyways. Just subscribe and share the show. Help anything you can do that's that's free is welcome. Just a floppy girl. She's like, I'm exhausted and you pick me up. I'm gonna fall asleep right here. Oh,
Sweetie. Yeah. She's such a good girl. She's such a sweetie.
Okay, hold on. I need this other arm. I gotta hold on. I've gotta try. I just have to click one thing and we'll be fine. Okay.